Hello everyone. A short video of about 30 seconds regarding Surah, chapter 24 of the Quran, verse 3. All right, let's listen to the people.
The fornicator will marry only a fornicatress or an associate. And the fornicatress will be married only by a fornicator, the fornicator. The fornicator will marry only a fornicatress or an associate. And the fornicatress will be married only by a fornicator or an associate. And this has been forbidden to the believers, bad women for bad men, and bad men for bad women. Likewise, good women are for good men, and good men are for good women. And all evil that befalls you comes from yourself.
Here it is. In fact, the word fornicator, the translation is not at all correct. In fact, it is not at all fornicator. Okay. They replaced the word. They translated the word zina, adultery, all right. The one who commits adultery and the one who commits adultery through fornicatress and fornicator. So from there, your mind is directed actions. It has nothing to do with it. In fact, it has nothing to do with it. You must. I invite you to read Surah 24 of the Quran in its entirety, 2001. We will try to mention a few small passages. Maybe. I'm not focused enough to be able to do it. I'm responding spontaneously after coming across it. This video, we are going to read the third verse that he cited. Lord, I seek protection with you against the blessed devil. 2009. We will read it with the translation that has been made. We will change the words afterwards. The fornicator will marry only a fornicatress or a codifier, and associate, and the fornicatress will marry only a fornicator or an associate, a codifier, and this remains forbidden to those who implement the entrusted deposit. In fact, it does not talk about sex at all. In reality, it speaks of those who prostitute themselves to another god. Okay, that's what it means. That one, it starts with the masculine. That one, I don't know how to say it strongly. The one who commits adultery, the one who commits adultery will only marry one who commits adultery or an associate, and the one who commits adultery will marry only one who commits adultery or an associate, and this remains forbidden to those who implement the entrusted deposit. All right. So the one who prostitutes themselves to another god will only marry the one who prostitutes herself to another god or an associate, and she who prostitutes herself to another god will marry only one who prostitutes himself to another god or an associate, and this remains forbidden to those who implement the entrusted deposit. And thus, it is said, believers and believeresses, is that forbidden for you? Someone who believes, all right, Torah, Gospel, Quran, Psalm, she who believes cannot marry someone who believes in another God besides the Lord. God undoubtedly qualifies those who believe in another God. All right, about adultery. So, it is forbidden for believing men and women to marry a man or a woman who believes in another God besides God. Allah, the Father God, the disarmed eternal. That is what it means. It has nothing to do with sex. They have reduced everything to sex, in fact. Really, those who spread the slander are a faction among you. Do not consider this to be a harm for you. Far from it. Rather, it is a good for you. For each of them, the offense he committed and a correction that is disproportionate falls to the one among them who has taken on the greatest share, the one who spread this and brought many people to gossip or write about the believer or the believing woman. The greatest part, that for him, the leader, really, those who love perversion. There, it was verse 11. There, it's verse 10, 9. Really, those who love the perverse. Let perversion spread among those who have believed. Those who have implemented the entrusted deposit will suffer a painful correction in this world and in the hereafter. Allah, the God, knows. You do not know. God speaks of belief there. All right, glory and purity be to you, Lord. Exalted are you, O you who have implemented the entrusted deposit. Verse 21. Do not follow in the footsteps of the blessed devil. The blessed devil commands indecency and disapproved actions to those who follow his path. Understood? Had it not been for the favor of Allah the Lord and his radiance of love, none of you would ever have had an increase in purity. None. However, Allah, the God, grants an increase in purity to whom he wills. Allah hears it. The soap, verse 23. I read them to you like this a little. Indeed, those who have been reproached, those who indeed are reproached, forgiveness. In this world and in the hereafter, those who make accusations, they have subjected honest women who are unprepared and who implement the entrusted deposit for them to an unparalleled correction. It's not woman, it's soul. Look, replace the word woman with soul when you read. 4. Those who will read and meditate on this verse, this chapter, 24. Sometimes he talks about women. That's why they make the confusion at some point. Yes, it's the word woman that is in Missa. It can be a woman or a soul. Really, those who launch accusations against honest, integral, and unprepared souls are condemned in the Siba and in the ultimate. They are foolish. They are, how to say, I don't like the term weak-minded because it can be confusing. There are souls like that. They don't pay attention. They just are. That's it. And they take advantage of those people who have a pure soul. They are light in their behavior. And when I say light, I am talking about souls. They do not pay attention. They do not see the evil. There you go. God is actually speaking about this, not about her underwear, truly. Those who make accusations against honest souls, the heedless, and those who implement the entrusted deposit for them are condemned in the Siba and in the ultimate, a correction beyond measure from God. On that day, their tongue, verse 20. 4. Their hands and their feet will testify against them regarding what they have done. On this day, Allah will reward the true worship that they owe, the true worship. This is what God speaks of. This does not concern those who do not believe in God. God does not speak of those who do not believe in him. It is about those who claim to believe in him. Give them 100 lashes for 20 lashes. He is not talking about the first person who comes to you and says, I do not believe in God. I am not. You do what you want. He does not target the believers. Believers and believers. He is not concerned by this chapter. In fact, on this day, Allah the Lord will reward the true worship they owe, and they will know that Allah the Lord is the evident truth. Wicked women are for wicked men, and wicked men are for wicked women. Is that clear? They are innocent of what is said to them. Recovery and generous sustenance. Okay. Here it talks about, after the word I don't know, it talks about men and women on the other hand. All right. They mixed everything up. In this case, we are also talking about castration. We are talking about castration. Verse 31. All right. While God validates castration. In fact, it's normal. With God, it's normal. You see, it's a bit long, but I will read it anyway. Say to those who implement the entrusted deposit. This is just to tell you a little about how they have changed everything. In fact, they put the word sex in verse 30. It's not the word sex. Verse 31 instructs those who implement the entrusted deposit to lower some of their gaze and to preserve their modesty, showing only what is apparent of their adornment, and let her lower her veil over her neckline and show. It's not about the hair. He would have mentioned hair otherwise. God, all right. There is no shortage of words. The Eternal is the one who created languages. All right, you sound. Moreover, adultery, Nazi. Well, there you go. For those who understand what I'm saying, it is they who sow corruption on the earth, and it is they who prevent these people from going to God. It is the Nazi languages belong to God. He who created colors. All right. And languages, nothing escapes him, and that she shows their adornments only to their husbands, their fathers, and the fathers of their husbands, to their son, to the son of their husband, to their brother, or to the son of their brothers, and to the sons of their sisters, or else women, or else captives, their captive, or in their wake. And they have been poorly castrated. No, there are those who have no attraction to women. It's very simple. It's very simple. And that verse puts their stories in perspective, because all of this is homophobia, racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. All of these are concepts. These are those who do not have attraction towards women. A homosexual, that's it. God puts things in order, all right? But they have imposed their views because, well, they have a problem with it, with homosexuality. So they have put a castrated male. So that means that God is talking about those who have been castrated. Normal. It's something normal. You break someone, it's normal, you see, to the young boys. There you go. Right after, it is about young boys who have not yet shown any sexual attraction to women. So there are those who do not have attraction to women, and it's not someone who is castrated. It's just that he loves men. That's it. So he can find himself in the presence of women because he has no attraction to them. And the young boys who don't have any ideas in their heads when they see a woman, and they won't catch their attention. They don't stand out to imagine what she hides of her assets. It's those who laugh a little too loudly who will stand out, who will. There you go. That's what God says when he says not to stomp our feet to make others imagine. That's life, really. Return all to Allah, the God. Oh, you who implement the entrusted deposit, may you be prosperous. God is talking about believers, both male and female, okay? He is not giving them a lesson on sexuality. We also have verse 30. I won't read it all because that would be too much. But we are talking about prostitution, to use the terms. These Islamophobes who look for verses that, for them, are the verses that could be confusing. Verse 30. And those who find themselves unable to marry should strive for continence until God enriches them with his favor. And for those among your captives who aspire to obtain a written document, captive, slavery and all, the words are actually poorly translated, but well, it's those who are under this, those who are under your protection, whether it's an employee or someone you have adopted, it's not slavery. And for those among your captives who aspire, it is unbearable, and who aspire to obtain a written document, then write it for them, write it with them, if you have noticed any good in them, and give them the goods that God has granted you, and through you, and your desire, the fleeting profits of this worldly life. Do not force your young maidservants into prostitution. It has been translated like that. It's madness. It's madness. And if they want to preserve themselves, who would force them? So really, after having been forced, God, the ray of love, God, the covering ray, the very ray of love. Sorry, because I took notes and crossed out some words, so I'm having a bit of trouble reading because what they have is crazy. Look at what God says in verse 34. And indeed, we have certainly sent down to you clear signs, and a parable drawn from those who have passed before you, and an exhortation for those who take heed in Switzerland. The light of the heavens and the earth is the symbol of light, and like a niche, etc. a lamp, etc. It speaks of the chest, the heart. And in verse 36, it has been permitted to be in the dwellings which he has allowed to be elevated and in which his name is mentioned. The dwelling, our body, immerses itself in the inseminable for it at dawn and dusk, in the dwellings that he has allowed to be raised and in which his name is recalled. Indeed, there are dwellings, they are empty, immersed in the unfathomable for him at dawn and at dusk. So if you want, talk about elevated things. Don't talk about underwear, about private parts. I don't know. What? We will return to verse 33. I will come back to the end of the verse. And by your desire for fleeting profits of life, discipline. Do not force your young servant, and it's not servant, they put it in the feminine form, to prostitute oneself, to go to another god, because you are afraid that, because the system oppresses you, this pharaonic system oppresses you. It tells you it's fine, religion, you set that aside, we don't have time, we will have problems. God said, do not push them into prostitution. It is I, the generous. It is I. This is what he is talking about. Do not force your young ones, your young servants, to engage in prostitution, in adultery, zina, and if they want to preserve themselves from worshipping another god, then God said, do not force them. There are parents, there are families in the surroundings. He encourages people to worship another god than God. All right, the system, the republic, but don't talk about God. It's complicated. You talk about God, we're going to have problems with what he talks about, and who truly forces them then, after having been forced. God, the most encompassing and radiant in love. All right? And those who attack God the Father, the eternal Muslims and believers. Muslims and believers are not the same thing. Satan has created groups in order to attack one group, the group of believers and believers, of course, the lost people, the sorrowful people. Glory and purity to you, eternal Lord, my God. Here, I wanted to share this with you like this a bit. Those who have a sick heart will jump on these. In these verses, it is said, look at God. God, fortunately, he is the merciful who forgives nonetheless. She who was forced into prostitution, he talks about it. It has nothing to do with it. And there lies the problem. All of this is a matter of understanding. They have translated the book at times. However, Maurice Glotton has still done quite a remarkable job. But he was also in Islam, so he comes from Christianity. Therefore, he had much more ease in understanding the Quran because he already had a certain understanding of the Gospel and the Torah. So that helped him understand. That's what it means. Adultery. All right, the Arabs have reduced everything to the underwear and the penis. How do you expect to get out of this actually? God will deliver heavy words to talk to you about the underwear and the penis. Good. Verse 37. Men, I will stop there. Men, let no trade and no barter distract from remembering God and elevating grace and pouring purified surplus. They fear the day when hearts and eyes are disturbed. And there they have placed the men. So the woman is not concerned. In fact, one just needs to take care of her underwear. In fact, the feet, those who walk on the feet, they are not the men. Not the men. It is man and woman. Let no trade and no barter be disdained. It is very misogynistic, in fact, to say that there one flatters the man on the other hand, the woman on the other hand, one spends time watching her underwear, completely delusional. In fact, this misogynistic God is, you understand why in the Arab world, there you go, they do worse than the others. Also, I won't even mention the rest of the verse. Well, that bothers me. I just wanted to share all of this with you. If it can help you shed light on your situation, by the grace of God, your meditation, we will conclude with this verse. I have circled it. I don't know why. I circled 2. I will read them justly. Here to share with you, God has promised those among you who have implemented the trust, fulfilled their righteous deeds, and to make them successors on the earth, as he made successors for those who preceded them. And indeed, he will strengthen the worship that he has approved for them and transform their former fears into security. He adores me and does not codify anything for me. There you go. Then those who have denied and elevated the uniform action reveal themselves. By grace, pour out the purified excess and obey the messenger. May you become the object of the radiance of love. Do not consider that I have surrounded the stars. Do not think that those who have denied will prevail on earth. The fire is their refuge. And what a terrible fate. There you go. These are the things that God speaks to us about. Okay, not our stories about kisses. And once again, I haven't read the verses where God says to give a whip and all that. Okay. Because those who have bad intentions and target the so-called Muslim community, who make it into what it is not, are the associators, but not. There you go. It's not them who are spreading corruption all over the world. They are being manipulated, just like the Jews and Christians in reality. These 3 religions are a scam. Okay, so the whippings and all that, they don't concern us. It does not concern those who do not believe in God. God speaks of the people of the book, the Torah, the Gospel, and the Quran. So those who claim to believe in him, so our beloved Jesus, when they asked for peace to be upon him and his family, when they asked for God to descend from a served table, he said, fear God, be careful. You are asking for something heavy. Be careful. Be careful. You are asking for God to serve you a table. He will deliver the word. But be careful about what you are going to do. There is no God but God, the merciful. 20:03 minutes and 20:03 seconds at the moment I say this to you. This is impossible for me. There you go. So they have distorted things. Again, they bring everything back. It's unbearable. I wanted to respond to you very quickly, but well, I shared some verses like that which are in this surah, in this chapter. And if you do not have the correct translation, the correct understanding, everything is distorted. Absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. How can God descend from 7 heavens? We have created 7 heavens and as much earth from which the commandments descend from heaven to heaven, so that you know that God is capable of all things to keep talking to us about little boys and panties endlessly. They have neurotized everyone. Alienated. It's actually crazy. Look at your comments. Making our sisters and our women into whores. I've already had enough of that. It's been almost 10 years that I've been hearing this. All right? It's actually crazy. So, people, I hope this video will help. You understand that the message has been conveyed. It allows you, in any case, to understand the divine language. Because over time, by sorting all this out, you will see that reading the Quran is no longer the same at all. At some point, there are things that you will eventually understand. That will become a mechanism. And you will understand. And truly comprehend what God indeed says. In his book. In his books. Well, people, believers, may God bless you, as well as the righteous, the others. Stay with your father, the devil. Be cursed. There is no God but God.